Hi, welcome to Box on the Box, Rock and Celluloid. I'm Edward Box, so today I'm going to rank the James Bond pre-credit sequences. Now, there's 25 James Bond films, but there's only 24 pre-credit sequences because the formula wasn't yet established when they did Doctor No. It wasn't until Russia with Love that they decided to have a preamble, so to speak. This was actually copied by TV, by series like Professionals, The Sweeney, the Avengers and so forth copied this idea. And what it does, it gives a sense of anticipation for the story ahead. Most of the time, the pre-credit sequence is to do with the plot of the film, but there's a couple of instances where it's not. And I'll come to that. It's great. The gun barrel comes up. It opens up. You're somewhere. Where's James Bond? What's going on? These are great moments. Sometimes the pre-credit sequence would be top and maybe the film's not that great as well. These little mini movies are usually shot by the second unit and the stunt coordinators, and then the first unit will film the actors, film them in the shot, and it'll all be cut together. So this is really where the second unit comes to play. So number 24, the worst James Bond pre-credit sequence is A View to a Kill. This is one of my least favourite James Bond films, although I've come around to his charms a little more. Roger's too old for the role. It's clearly massive stunt doubling. It's another snowbound sequence. If it wasn't for a certain moment, it would be okay. The music's good, the action's okay, but there's a couple of moments that just kill this, and it's when they play California Girls by the Beach Boys when he surfs across the water. It's terrible, it breaks the mood, it breaks the tension, and then he gets in that ridiculous submarine disguised as an an iceberg, and then he has champagne with some blonde who's far too young for him. It may be stretched to a 5 or a 6 if it were, but that California Girls bit just ruins it. So next one is Quantum of Solace. I mark this one a 5 out of 10. The problem with this is it's quite a reasonable sequence it carries immediately on from the end of Casino Royale. But the problem is just they decided to go with this Bourne style editing. It's too choppy. But I think at the end of the day, it's just not that interesting. Basically, it's just a car chase. And then it goes into the credit sequence, which is by a different company, not Daniel Kleinman. Just weird, but the opening shot's good. I've actually been opposite that tunnel where they filmed it when I was in Italy. But I think the issue with this is why change the editing style? Casino Royale, you established this really good tempo. You had this huge success. Why do you need to copy the Bourne style? They brought in Dan Bradley from the Bourne films to do this, do the second unit. You've had a massive success, so why change? Next up is For Your Eyes Only. Now, this is one where it's nothing to do with the plot of the film. View to a Kill, remember, he gets a microchip, I think. Yeah, so For Your Eyes Only starts off really good. He visits Tracy's grave. That's good because it kind of puts Roger Moore into the timeline of the whole Bond. It references her in Spy Love Me as well, the fact he's been married, which is really good. Roger's good in the scene. He gets in a helicopter. Then the helicopter's been taken over by remote control, and that's good, but then there's this guy in a wheelchair who looks like Blofeld, but it's never sort of indicated he's totally Blofeld. We think he is. Presumably Blofeld didn't die, which he didn't at the end of Majesty's Secret Service. He's in a neck brace, so maybe that's why he's in a wheelchair. Maybe Bond's paralysed him, George Lazenby's Bond. But anyway, he's like, he takes over by remote control, but then he gets a bit silly. And then there's a classic bit where Roger pats his head and goes, "All right, keep your hair on." The actual stunt was great in this, and it's good when he drops Blofeld down the chimney, "Mr. Bond," but it's just a bit comical. And this is one of the issues with that film. You've got the serious film, you've got this preamble that's comical in the end, the Margaret Thatcher bit, which, as time goes on, Anyway, less said about that, the better. But so this could have been a pretty cool credit sequence. Again, it's let down by misplaced humour. Next one, You Only Live Twice. This is very much in the sort of Connery realm of pre-credit sequences. They would never have a massive spectacle, maybe apart from Thunderball. This, James Bond, he's making out with a girl and then he gets killed. We think he has. But obviously later on we find out that they faked his death. Quite why they do that, I'm not sure. It's an okay sequence. It kind of sets up a plot point of the film. I guess Bond can go undercover. But it's not particularly exciting. It's not massively interesting, although it's slightly intriguing. But if you remember, Connery's been killed before at the start from Russia with Love, but obviously it's a guy in a mask. Which brings me to the next one from Russia with Love. This again is a 6 out of 10. Quite a nice atmosphere on this. People going around the maze. Connery's quite interested in this. They clearly put some sort of like heavy sort of pasty makeup on him, so he looks a little plastic. So when they take off the Mission Impossible mask. So this pre-credit sequence is quite interesting, intriguing. It's not particularly exciting, but this is the first one. The idea that the gun barrel comes along, it opens up, we go in, what's going on, and then this sets up the plot point. What's interesting about this, I think this sequence is about 2 or 3 minutes long in total. Later on, a pre-credit sequence will be as long as 16 minutes. It's no time, it's like 23 minutes or something crazy. Certainly 16. Anyway, it's a 6 out of 10. Next one up is Die Another Day. I remember going to the picture to see this and being excited. I heard the pre-credit sequence had hovercrafts that went across the demilitarized zone, North Korea, South Korea. There was a surfing sequence. When it came to watching it, I thought it was okay. I could clearly see bits of kind of CG where the actors were against a green screen. I didn't really like the lighting, but I do quite like the bit where Brosnan turns up, don't blow it all at once. Brosnan's good in that scene. You establish the character of Zhao, Colonel Moon. It's pretty good. The bit he's kind of trapped on the bell, Saved by the Bell, is a dodgy model shot with a boat, and it's kind of like, we should have got past those models by then. So technically, I always felt this was lacking a bit. And then in terms of like tension and cutting, it was okay. It just didn't have quite enough going on. Quite interesting how it morphs into the credit sequence. I'll probably rank the credit sequence and the credit sequences sometime, I think. Next up is License to Kill. Now, I used to not like this credit sequence, and I still don't think it's one of the best ones, but I do think it sets up the plot well, and I do appreciate the plane sequence where Dalton lowers down. If you actually look, it's clearly a bloke in the wig. You can clearly see the stunt double with a really bad wig. This is probably one of the examples later Bonds where the stunt doubling, like, and you should have looked at that. But it's pretty good. He hooks up, and they've done it for real. There's that bit with a skydive into the wedding, which I think is a really nice sequence. Just pure Bond, and the way that's cut together is good. But it sets up the plot. The wedding of Felix, the Sanchez character. For that, it's good. It's a solid expositional. It's a good plot related pre-credit sequence. I just don't think it's that exciting. Interestingly, Christopher Nolan copied this for the intro to The Dark Knight Rises. So he obviously loved it. Okay, next up is Thunderball. This is probably like the first credit sequence that I'd say has quite big spectacle. You've got this funeral, you've got this big fight scene, and then Connery gets in a rocket pack and then zaps everyone. I think this is an example of when you have a Bond pre-credit sequence coming after an all-time great Bond. So it comes after Goldfinger, same happened with Skyfall, Casino Royale. Sometimes the pre-credit sequence following an amazing Bond, and it's very rarely you get two amazing Bonds back to back. I think Russia will love Goldfinger, a good example there, where they did do good. So this pre-credit sequence is entertaining. I'm not sure what it lacks. It's like they're trying too hard to kind of up the ante. Next one up is Moonraker, and this is another one of the Roger Moore ones where it's let down by misplaced humour. In terms of stunt work, this may be one of the absolute greatest stunts ever in Bond. He's on his last legs, sure. Roger's on the plane, bloke skydives out, Roger's trapped on the plane on his own. He fucking skydives out. And when you're at the pictures when you're a kid, it's amazing. You think, obviously, again, if you look at it, you can see the stunt double. I was watching an interesting Tarantino thing about this, and Tarantino talks like, he's like, they're fucking doing it for real. This is actually happening, These blokes have dived out of the plane. You actually watch the Bond extras, they've got the parachute hidden. So they've got the emergency chute if it goes wrong. I think there was, I mean, this could go really wrong, and it's absolutely brilliant. Where it goes wrong is Jaws appears for no fucking reason. Top of the plane. Obviously, everyone loved Jaws from The Spy Love Me. As kids, we were like, "Oh, it's Jaws, brilliant!" But he skydives out of the plane. Bond, I can't remember, I think he beats him up in fucking, the sky. He pulls his shirt out, it goes wrong, and then he's doing flying, and then we've got this stupid comedy music, and he lands in a circus tent. Now, I know landing in a circus tent would break your fall a bit, there might be netting, but I think by that point he'd be at terminal velocity, which was 120 miles an hour. I think if you hit a circus tent 120 miles an hour, and even springy netting, I think... I'm not sure that would create the exact correct deceleration for you not to fucking mangle your internal organs. But anyway, that misplaced humour kind of drops it a notch. This could be an 8 or 9 out of 10 pre-credit sequence. I think the other issue with this, it isn't anything to do with the plot. This is the first one where they forsake any kind of plot thing, apart from that Jaws is in it, it shows that he's back. And then the same thing happens in For Your Eyes Only, and I think it's better when the plot related. But anyway, next one, I'm going for Spectre. Now, here's an example of coming off the back of what I think is a really, really great Bond film, a very good Bond film, Skyfall. Expectations were high. This pre-credit sequence has got this weird Day of the Dead thing, with that type about the Day of the Dead. Then you've got this long tracking shot. The first thing I noticed about this was how kind of brown and weirdly washed out the photography was. To me, that was an error. On the part of Sam Mendes and the cinematographer. They should have gone for vibrant and high gloss. I know Spectre's about death. So you've got this long tracking shot, and then he takes his mask off and he walks out. Now, this tracking shot is amazing. And must confess, I always imagined and always wanted some kind of cool shot like this in a Bond film. But to me, the director should never draw attention to themselves in a Bond film. The star should be Bond. And at the start of this film, Sam Mendes draws attention to himself and his team. You've got this cool explosion bit, it's quite funny. Then there's a helicopter fight, which is clearly, when they're fighting a helicopter, you can see although it's very well done, you can see it's on a blue screen. If they'd had stunt guys fighting outside the helicopter and doing it more real. And for that reason, it just misses a notch. This does set up the plot, but there's a lot of problems with Spectre, and you can see it early on in this, although it is a good pre-credit sequence. So the next one up, now, hold on, I'm looking at my abridgedness here, and I can't read what I've put. I've got TMWTGG. The Man with the Golden Gun, there we go. Now, The Man with the Golden Gun's pre-credit sequence is very strange. Like the first Roger doesn't appear in it, although he does appear as a mannequin. But I've always found this quite intriguing, having his fun house. It introduces Nick Nack Scaramanga. Christopher Lee's very powerful. You got the gangster guy turning up. She's kind of a holdover from Diamonds. You got the island. It is intriguing, although it's a bit hokey. I've always liked it. And then you've got the weird thing with the mannequin, and he shoots his finger off, I think. So, and the same for the next one, Live and Let Die. Again, I give this a 7 out of 10 as a sequence. Bond's not in it. You've got these 3-pronged little vignettes. It's intriguing, but it establishes, when it does the last sequence, the kind of voodoo element. It's intriguing. Then you got the top credits with the McCartney song. So again, weird Roger not being in it. And it's a strange thing. Why didn't they put Roger in it? Whenever they've introduced a new Bond, they've always had him in the sequence, but maybe they thought, off the back of Lazenby, maybe they thought, well, maybe we should hold off in introducing Roger. And I think that was a mistake, really, but I do still like the pre-credit sequence, as do I like Diamonds Are Forever. Again, this is a 7. This is a strange one, in that, Connery comes in, where's Blofeld? He's clearly trying to tie in what's happened in the previous Her Majesty's Secret Service, but with none of the emotional fallout of this. Interestingly enough, Connery bends down and I've got something I want to get off your chest or something, and he pulls Lay's bra and strangles her. When I watched a bit on TV recently, I actually cut that bit, which I can understand for TV purposes now in the modern sensibility. although it does show Connery's ruthlessness as Bond. But it's quite funny this, making Mud Pies 007. There's always that issue, should Blofeld be English, but I always kind of like Charles Gray. I don't know why. I quite like the medical thing with the mud, and that was always kind of intriguing. What's all this mud? Obviously it's kind of for your skin and stuff. And then there's a bit, with the surgeon scalpels. So again, and the cat segueing into Blofeld's cat segueing into the credits. So I've always liked the sort of intrigue, an interesting run of pre-credit sequences from Diamonds in what I call the Tom Mankiewicz era he's writing. So next up, now we get to what I call the 8 out of 10 credit sequences and upwards. These credit sequences are the premium ones. So the next one is No Time to Die. Now, there's a lot of debate about No Time to Die. I need to watch it again. I've only seen it twice. And I did really enjoy the pre-credit sequence. It's too long. It's crazy long. And looking back, it's got elements in it where, you have to introduce, keep Vesper in there again. But when they go to that Italian city, it begins with M, doesn't it? Italian town. It's just beautiful, and it's probably one of the rare examples in recent times when they've managed to find a location that we're maybe not as aware of, and we're like, oh wow. With the world opening up, it's very hard for Bond films to kind of wow us like they did back in the 60s and 70s and the 80s as well. But I do like the Safin bit. Unfortunately, that element, that character goes wrong, but it's really interesting having Madeline's character. There's a lot of problems with that, Madeline as well, but it's almost horror movie-ish. I really liked how it's shot, and I think Carey Joy Funkenagua did a really good job with that. I think one of the problems with watching the trailer for this film, it did give away a couple of really cool stunt bits, the bit of the motorbike, and when the car goes over, which is CGI and is very well done. Incidentally, on this pre-credit sequence, when they're having the wheel tyre sort of thing and they're doing the chase, it was putting down a lot of black rubber and I had to CGI it all out, so I had to replace the floor, as it were, for the car chase sequence. But I do like this. The bit of the bulletproof glass is good. Using the Aston Martin. It's a really cool sequence, and it fits in a lot of plot. And if you watch carefully, when he ditches her at the airport, she holds her stomach. And I didn't notice that, but one of my mate's wives said, "Oh, I knew she was pregnant. She held her stomach." You see, only a woman would know that. Brilliant. Next up is Skyfall. This is the Russian doll sequence, as Sam Mendes pointed it. It starts off. Firstly, I love the opening shot. Bond comes into focus. A mission's gone wrong. That's really interesting. Not only Bond films is it a kind of start of the mission thing, but you're dropped into the middle of it going wrong, and it will go wrong, the mission. Then, you've got the bike chase. You've got Footy ends up on the train. There's that great bit, he bashes the bike into the bridge and jumps over the top. He does that tie straightening. Then he ends up on the bridge. It's got several elements in it, and then it goes into the pre-credit sequence, the credits, which is really good, which kind of tells you the story of the film. The only bit with this I don't like is you can see that Daniel Craig's head is CGI'd onto the motorbike. You just think by this point, by 2012, you'd be able to cut an actor's head off and CGI it on seamlessly onto them. Why they failed to do that, I don't know. But anyway, maybe someone should have worn a Daniel Craig mask. But it is a good sequence. So next one up is, again, I think this is the last, or one of the last intrigue Bonds. At the end of the 60s, those 60s Bond pre-credit sequences have a certain style. And this is a Majesty Secret Service. What I like about this is the day for night shot, the sense of intrigue. You've got the different Aston Martin, the hat. I really like this. Then you've got that great fight scene where it's using crazy jump cuts. They've got trampolines buried in the sand. The music's fantastic. The cinematography looks unlike any other Bond film. And then the classic line, breaking the fourth wall, which is quite a risky thing to do. But this never happened to the other fella sequence is interesting because it's kind of starting to acknowledge the meta-ness of Bond at this point, and the fact that Bond, he's so well known, really they kind of had to do that. Of course, it goes in one of the greatest credit sequences of all time in the music. So although the other ones like No Time to Die, Skyfall, pick better, more action, I really like this. So the next one is The World Is Not Enough. Now this is the first crazy long Bond pre-credit sequence. What happened with this was they shot the scene in Bilbao with a banker, and when you see that, it's quite tame. Basically, he has a meeting, he kind of puts a finger on his waist. It would have been an okay little 6 out of 10 thing, but they decided it wasn't enough, and I think the boat bit was supposed to come after the credits. So they went to the boat bit as well, and it's really spectacular. It's got that explosion, Brosnan bursts out in the boat. There's the great bit where he goes underwater and he straightens his tie. And that's a great little moment. And then, of course, it finishes on the Millennium Dome, which kind of seems hilarious now, because the Millennium Dome was such a thing at the time, the Millennium, and using it. But it's great how Brosnan's character kind of falls off the dome, drops down, and into the credit sequence. I still think this is maybe a bit blown and maybe a bit too long. It would have been better maybe if they could have lost the banking bit and found a way to kind of get the money thing into the plot sooner. But I still think it's really good, and it's far better than the rest of the film. One of the things with Will World's Not Enough is it suffers from really some of the weakest action, poorly executed action of Bond. Okay, number 7 now. I made a mistake before, I said there was 2 films. There's 3 that don't have anything to do with the plot. So Roger did a tripler: Moonraker, Few Hours Only, and then Octopussy. I think as time goes on, this is starting to be seen as one of the great pre-credit sequences, because it just gives you what you want. You open up, you've got Roger and Natasha, you've got a beautiful girl, there's intrigue. Then, he's impersonating a guy, has to get out, he gets in the plane, you get this fantastic chase sequence in the little kind of micro plane, which is very new technology at the time. And then, of course, the money shot where it flies through. They actually had it on a kind of, when it goes through the door, I think they had it on a kind of, some kind of stirrup support, and then it just went through like that to get the shot. But the tension's great, and of course, he gets out the other side. What I love about this, and I think it's very well done, it's clearly Roger, he's clearly on a blue screen, as it'd be then. But it's well done, and you see that explosion, it's a massive fuck-off explosion. Whether it's a model or they've blown up something for real, a barn with those things, it's so well done. I'd put that up as one of the best explosions of all time. Roger flies off, and then he parks it, doesn't he? Fill her up. And it's just a really lovely little vignette. And that sequence, I think, was bettered by my next choice, which is Tomorrow Never Dies, which I think is a very underrated pre-credit sequence. 9 out of 10. So with this, there was big boots to fill, because GoldenEye, we'll come to that, has one of the great pre-credit sequences of all time. And I think the makers did really well. Typically, after a classic Bond, you can get a bit of a disappointing pre-credit sequence, but I think this did really well. And I think what it did, it had the action on the video screens. It was cutting back to Jeffrey Palmer, to Judi Dench. That was really good. Brosnan appears, punches the guy out with he guffs him like, really well done. You've got a really exciting sequence, very well shot by the second unit and Roger Spottiswoode. I think Roger Spottiswoode is underrated in this. There's a great bit where that camera kind of tilts. He gets the plane, he blows shit up, and the plane sequence is really well done. It's got good CG. And then you get that great kiss-off line, backseat drivers. The Brosnan era is saddled with bad one-liners, but that backseat driver brought the house down. I remember me and my mate went to see it, and you could just feel there was happiness in the auditorium. Not quite up with a GoldenEye, but really well done, really tensely edited, really economic. One of the best sort of sequences in pre-credits of Bonds for economy of getting that information in and doing tight editing and pacing. So my next choice, number 5, is The Living Daylights. I think as time goes on, this one gets better and better. One of the great introductions to a change of Bond. What I love about this is parachute in, cool sequence, land, guys getting whacked. Which one's James Bond? There he is on the Rock Dalton. And people can say what they want about Timothy Dalton. And there's issues with Living Daylights because it was supposed to be for Pierce Brosnan or Roger Moore. But in that pre-credit sequence and the sequences afterwards in Bratislava, Dalton's excellent. He comes in and nails it. Great scene. Has the chase on the Land Rover, and it's Dalton doing a lot of his own stunts, holding on to it, stuff Roger would never do. Sean didn't really. I mean, Sean, they didn't really have stunt sequences like that back then. So props to Dalton for that. And again, very well done. They're having the fight in the back. He parachutes out. There's blue screen there, but it's really well done. And just a great sequence. Great. And it introduces the Death to Spies plot really well. Again, what I like the Tomorrow Never Dies sequence. It's tight. It's action-packed. And it kisses off well. And Dalton, when he lands, I'll be with you in an hour. Better make that too. It's cheesy, it's Roginess, but I think Dalton does very well in that scene. Again, at the Pictures in 1987, we were very happy with that sequence, I think. Next up, Casino Royale. Interestingness, pull back, a throwback to the Connery pre-credit sequences. Moody, short, but tense. What I really like about this, bold, putting it in black and white. I'm not sure why they did that, but it's great. There's that really cool shot of the villain guy with a kind of almost Dutch tilt. And then he goes in the office, and I remember a friend of mine saying, oh, he looks like a ghoul, he looks like a spectre. You actually see at the back down in Craig's eyes, he does. And then there's that great bit, and doesn't mind you selling secrets. And then you have, I think it cuts to the fight, which is fucking brutal, amazing. Then it has the considerably bit, which is really good, very Connery-ish, very sort of cutting, almost like a Smith & Wesson, you know, your six. And then I think he fires at the screen, the blood comes down, and again, they didn't do the gun barrel thing for a bit with the Craig era, but I thought this was brilliant. Next up, 10 out of 10, again, is Goldfinger. This is just full of wit. He appears, he's disguised, he's got the duck, he goes in, he plants the bomb. It's that weird kind of set design with the poppies and everything. Excellent. Then he pulls off his wetsuit, he's got a white tuxedo underneath. First time Connery's worn that. One of the iconic Bond images is the white tux, used later on, and everyone ends up in the white tux. Well, Daniel has and Roger has, I think, certainly. Then, obviously, there's the bit, he has the fight, there's a brilliant reflection in the girl's eye, and possibly shocking sequence. Absolutely brilliant, full of wit, amazing. Apart from that shitty kind of, crap explosion, which is obviously fake, but we'll let it off. Brilliant, goes in the credit sequence. This next two, you know what they're going to be, I think, and it was a close run thing. But my number 2 choice is GoldenEye. Amazing when you saw the trailer. But what was great about it was it showed you the jump, but it didn't show you what happened after. He runs along, he does this swan dive bungee jump, incredible. Then, there's a bit of studio shot, him going in the dam, which is very well done. Brilliant, tense sequence, moving the blood of gas tanks, brilliant. The shoot Sean Bean. Then he's shooting, really well done, brilliant direction by Martin Campbell. Guys on a bike gets flipped over. And then the plane goes over the cliff, and you're like, fucking hell. He fucking out moonrate as Spy lives with himself, and he fucking goes off on a bike, and he chases after the plane. Which of course he would fall fast in the plane, because the plane's got the engines on, so that will be providing a bit of upward thrust. My only problem with this sequence is you can see that it's green screen, but they've done their best, but it's really cool, and then he flies off and flies in the credits. Absolutely brilliant. At that time, if you wanted to know James Bond was back, you surely knew it. And it's interesting, my number 1 choice is, of course, The Spy Who Loved Me. And people forget, after the muted response to The Man with the Golden Gun, was a lot of pressure on them to deliver. And the same thing with GoldenEye, been away for 6 years. We have to fucking let the audience know that Bond is back. And with The Spy Who Loved Me, I think this will always be the classic pre-credit sequence. Simply for the reason that stunt where he skis off a cliff. It's amazing. They ski off, they spent several days of that. I don't know how long they spent. John Glenn shot it, 2nd unit. Rick Sylvester did the stunt. And you actually see the ski just misses the parachute. I mean, this could have gone really wrong. Whether he's got a reserve chute, I hope he did. But when that opens up, he got a standing ovation at Leicester Square. The hat crowd was whooping and hollering. People forget, although Star Wars came out in 1977, it came out in very early January 1978. So in actual fact, 1977 in the UK was the year of The Spy Who Loved Me. Close Encounters did not come out in 78. I don't know. But anyway, The Spy Who Loved Me was the #1 film. This is amazing. This sequence is brilliant. Rogers, I need you, James. So does England. You know, there's the ticker tape. There's a good bit with Triple X. You know, so fucking good. And although, like, as other Bond films, they've superseded it in action terms. If you need to make an announcement of, like, James Bond opening, this is the one. So that is my ranking of those. Going through them, I'm pleased with that. I think I've got it about right. How long has it taken? Just over 30 minutes, but, you know, it's just over a minute and a bit each one. Okay, I'll see you again. Maybe put your favourite pre-credits in the comments. Cheers now. Thanks a lot. Remember to share and subscribe. Thanks.